Via Teams by Matlou Setati from the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa. Matlou, good afternoon again. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
All right, so in lieu of what we're observing, perhaps you could speak to the progress made to reduce food loss and waste under the CSA initiative.
Indeed, it is a great year since we started that we can announce that 115 companies have since joined the initiative. And it is quite amazing that these companies raised their hand and said, we want to work on this with the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa. So they have started to report, and maybe in the near future, we will be able to avail the detail as to how much food has been reduced as we work towards 2030.
Well, certainly that is progress. And as we look at a South African context, what is the extent of food loss in South Africa, the impact on households, given the issue of food security?
Indeed, and especially for South Africa, since we have the issue with food security, malnutrition, and children stunting due to lack of nutritious food. So it is imperative that for companies that have surplus food, it gets channeled to people in need before it can be thrown into landfill. So that's the key emphasis that we are preaching to and working with the members to say that let's feed people where we're not able to sell the material. Let's donate it to the various NGOs that we work with so that we can then feed people of the utmost importance. Because South Africa has got a lot of food to feed people. But if we then end up wasting food, we are doing a zero displacement kind of a thing. But another message that we need to preach is that in our households, we also need to make sure that we measure our waste, we separate our waste, we ensure that we know what we are throwing out so that we can change our purchasing practices and our storage practices in a similar way that the value chain is doing.
No, speaking of practices and the framework governing all of that, I mean, there's been calls by the CGCSA for a legislative framework that will allow companies to donate surplus foods to food banks and even households still safe for consumption. Talk to us the progress on that front.
Well, it is going well. We are sitting with government, community and labor at a network structure where community and labor said, business, you need to come to the party and let us know what you are doing with this issue of food loss and waste, because we can utilize the surplus food to feed the communities that are at most need of the food. So we have presented what we have done already. And fortunate enough, there is support in terms of taking up the food donation guideline that we had developed in a voluntary manner to be developed into a national standard. The main issue that still remains to get a resolve, which we are working towards in the negotiations with government, is the issue of liability. If you can imagine, if you have surplus food and want to hand over to an NGO, you will be liable should anything, God forbid, happen in the supply of that particular donation. So what we are saying is that let's look at what the other nations have done, where they've said, if you are sure on your side and give the information to the next party that this product is safe for consumption, the next party needs to take responsibility so that we are all not impacted. As you can imagine, should anything happen and everyone is implicated, that can have huge implications for companies. And this is the main fear why most companies have not raised their hands to say we are committing to do this.
We were speaking about responsibility as we wrap up this conversation. We're looking at the value chain at large, from the farm to the dinner table consumption. In your view, what also needs to be done to reduce food loss or waste from the farm to the dinner table?
I think it starts with baby steps. if we look, I like bringing it home in our kitchens. Let's take, for instance, the way we store our food, the way we buy our food. If we buy bulk, let's make sure that they are used before they can get off. And also the cooking, the way we prepare the food, we must ensure that they are palatable to the people that we intend to feed. And another thing is that sometimes we are just too abundant in our purchasing, in our consumption. We need to be responsible in terms of how we consume food. It is a key commodity which we can share equally with all that need it. But the issues of resources and infrastructure are very key. As we know, we are struggling with issues of load shedding. Change into renewable energy is very critical so that we can ensure that the cold chain is not affected as we need to store the products. And another quick and easy one to do is preservation of food products. At a farm level, if there is surplus, we advise farmers to start looking at processing their food into other products, either drying, either making sauces or freezing the products. So those are the infrastructures that we can put together to ensure that we salvage whatever that we might be losing.
It sounds like infrastructure and consumer behavior is coming to the fore through those sentiments. Thank you. Thank you for your time with us on the SABC and for helping us understand how better, we can navigate this. Matlou Setati is from the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa, speaking to the 29th of September, marking International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, which was obviously designated by the United Nations General Assembly.